Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Akron's hottest and fastest growing show, 3 Throw to Go. I'm your host, Hank Forrester, coming to you live from Stakeout Studios atop the bridge at Acme number 1. Today we get to sit down with the folks from Rahab Ministries and find out what they're all about. But before we do that, let's say once again a big hello to Sarah.
Hey everybody. You know, I never knew this was here, so this is pretty cool. You got to show me the bridge on top of
Just living the dream.
We're just living the dream.
Living the dream. How you doing, Hank? You doing good?
I'm living that dream.
Awesome. All right. So today's episode is brought to us by Stray Dog Food Cart, making Akron more Acrony since 2009. As summer begins to wind down, you will still find them all around town at different fall festivals. I actually got to try their pizza dog not very long ago. If you have not had this, you need to go try it. And Charlie makes amazing pickles, so check out his pickles as well. You can find their flagship location underneath the main Akron Library, or you can head out to the Northside Marketplace to check them out too. Also, today's show is brought to us by Acme Fresh Markets. The Community Cashback Program is back in effect, so make sure you sign up your nonprofit to be part of that program. All you have to do is save your Acme receipts, and Acme gives back to the community. The hottest prices, best deals, and fastest checkout in town. Shop Acme, and we're very thankful for that. At my daughter's school does that, so that's pretty cool.
And again, we're on the bridge. And
we're
now
on
you
the
can
bridge.
see behind you
I know.
the Acme.
I know, but I seriously, Hank tells me, come on the bridge at Acme, and I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yes, so now you know.
Now I know.
Here we are. We made it.
All right. We're also excited to note that Sheena's Platinum Movements has returned as a sponsor after their summer break. They're now accepting new students for this upcoming season. The dancers are back at it, and the season is underway, so look for updates on upcoming classes from Miss Sheena. Love dance. We are dance family in our house, so go check out Miss Sheena's if you're looking for a new studio.
And the fun thing about Sheena's right now is they're offering an adult tap class.
That is
all right. So if you want to, and they,
do you take this?
Are you tapping?
It's
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. I'm not taking this. Okay. But it's like, I think it's like what, $40-50 or something like that. But it goes for like 6 weeks, and it's beginner to expert. So yes, and Sheena's, if you don't know where Sheena's is, we had her, and I'll probably have her show rerun this week for that, because they're offering that class. But they're literally 200 yards from where I'm at right now. They're right around the corner from Acme number 1. All right.
Well, and now you're gonna have to take the tap class, and we're gonna have to stream it live so that everyone can see.
I might do one. I could do one.
A special visit.
Like one episode, like one dance.
Right,
okay.
Right.
All right, so folks, today's also brought to us by right here, ding ding, Mobile Screen of Ohio. Mobile Screen, they're a premier provider of workplace substance abuse testing. Okay, so they offer comprehensive compliance. So they're the people that you call if you're the HR manager and director of your company, and you either have a suspicion of employees that may be doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and the goal is to number one, look out for the safety of all the employees, including the employee that may be the abuser, but secondly is to keep that workplace safe. OSHA is really big on making sure that everybody stays in compliance. So check them out, Mobile Screen of Ohio. You can find them on Facebook and on the interwebs. All right. In addition, our other sponsor, our final sponsor here, is Custom Spray of Akron, and they're a professional residential and lawn care company. I feel like I'm doing a hair commercial. I'm also a client, okay?
Oh, right, nice.
So they're like, hey, we're going to give you the greenest lawn in Akron, and they have not failed in doing that. I have a tiny little cute lawn, and it's always green. There's no weeds, and now it's flea-free because they've been doing the bug bomb thing, all right? So Hank, my dog is also Hank, and here barking Doug, and he appreciates that too. All right.
Love it.
So,
my dog could use that actually.
Yeah. And before we go on with the show, I mentioned earlier in the week I put a post out. This shirt is my game-worn Game 6 from the championship season in the championship finals shirt, and I'm wearing it tonight. And I've been wearing it all week. Every time we've been broadcasting in memory of Fred McLeod. Okay, so Fred McLeod, I grew up with Joe Tate and Fred McLeod. So between the two Cavs broadcasters, we've had tremendous audio experience for all of my life. And Fred passed away unexpectedly this week. So I've been wearing the shirt in honor of him because, as you know, for all of you super fans that are out there, when the show ends, when I do that ending credit, make sure you listen tonight. The very final thing that is said as the show closes down is Fred McLeod calling a three-pointer from the 3-3-0. All right? So I don't want to do a moment of silence. That's kind of hokey. But the point is, that's why I'm wearing this tonight.
Nice.
So let's hear for Fred and his wife, Beth. Cool. All right, so let's talk about it. It's time to talk Rahab. And right now, I'd like to welcome our guests. Big round of applause to Angel and Alicia. I said that right, okay? Yeah. All right, I spelled it wrong on purpose, so I would say it right, okay? So let's hear for Angel and Alicia, everybody. All right, so thank you, ladies, for being on. The first question I always ask all of our guests is, what is your Akron story? So as far as just, did you grow up here? What's the deal?
Yeah, I was here until I turned almost 13, and then I moved out to Arizona.
Okay.
And came back in 10 years. Pretty jacked up.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've got 11 years sober now, but I love Akron, Ohio. It's built my heart.
Okay.
I'll be here until the end.
Okay.
Akron for life.
That's
Lifer.
right.
Lifer.
Okay.
Yeah, lifer.
All right.
I grew up in Central Ohio, went to Kent State, and then got married, settled in Akron. Love it here. These are my peoples. This is my place.
It's a good place to settle.
It's a great
What
place.
city did you grow up in? You
Columbus.
say in Columbus.
Buckeye.
Okay. Okay. Well, then you got best of both worlds there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what's not to like?
That's right.
So, all right. So let me tell you my story about Rahab. Okay. So the first time I heard of Rahab Ministries, I think it was 2008, and it was with Grace Church, and we did a program called I Care. Okay. And everybody, the Grace Church folks always based which I Care it was based on what color the shirt was. Okay. So this would be I Care orange. So it was year number 1. Okay. And the goal was to, you got these small groups and you did these service projects, and then you stayed together as a group afterward and made your group, right? And we signed up to go to Rahab. I'm like, there's this Rahab place. Okay. Is it kid friendly? Sure. Well, we're just gonna be doing project stuff. No.
Let
So
your kids watch this show.
right. Yeah. Don't. Yeah. I should say viewer discretion advised. I did put it in the mature subject matter. Okay. But the point is, we went to the house. It's the public house that's down by Hoban. I went to Hoban, and it all kind of fit and made sense, right? So, very stereotypically, they had the men outside doing landscaping and stuff, and they had the women up folding clothes upstairs. Okay, it was very stereotypical. But the point is, Rahab at that time was getting all these donations, and they didn't know what to do with them. They were just piles of clothes all the way to the ceiling. So our first I Care project was to meet those people and to help with the house. Okay, so that's where I've heard of Rahab. All right. Then fast forward to today and how we got here. It's her fault, okay? So
Always is.
Yeah. So I'm walking in a Walmart parking lot, and she sees me and she goes, "Aren't you that guy?" And I'm like, "There's a lot."
What does that mean?
That could
Sometimes
be.
you say no, depending.
That could be anything, right? So I'm like, she's like, "I've seen you somewhere in like TV or a show or something." I'm like, "Yeah, I run a podcast and a webcast. It's called 3-3 to Go." She's like, "Oh yeah, and I said, "I go to Grace Church." I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay." So she's like, "Well, would you ever want to talk about us?" I'm like, "Who's us?" Because at that point she hadn't identified that she was okay. And she said, "Well, I'm part of the Rahab team." I'm like, "Oh my God." So then I hand her a business card. And then we fast forward again to Sheena's Platinum Movements. All right. And I am on stage dancing with my daughter. Okay. Next to this other guy dancing with his daughter. And his name is Greg. Okay.
Oh, yes.
So Greg is one of the head guys at Rahab.
Yeah.
So then you must have given him the card, and then he emails me and says, "Hey, I hear you'd be interested in covering us for your show, blah, blah, blah." And we have an email, and I exchange one back, and then the next one is like, "Did we just dance together?"
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I'm like, "What?" So that's the small world and how this all happened, okay? So now here we are, all right? So now I'm going to ask you guys, I'm going to shut up for a while.
Yeah.
She's going to run most of it.
Okay.
I'm going to monitor comments, and I'm going to do sound effects. Like every once in a while, I'll give you one of these. Aww. All right. And that kind of stuff. All right. So the point is, I'm going to go more into producer mode, And on top of that, where we really want to start with is where did this program begin? So take us back to the very beginning, whoever wants to do that.
Yeah, go for it. I feel like
Yeah.
I'll hit that.
Oh, it doesn't matter either way. I don't care who says what. I've been with Rahab. Well, I came in March of 2009. I kind of just busted through the door because I was looking for the lady that came see me in the Summit County Jail, and it had been about 11 months, and I thought about her every single day. And when I found out that there was a house that she was at every Friday at 3 o'clock, that next Friday I busted through the door like, "Do you remember who I am?" And I told her I was going to stalk her for the rest of the time here on earth on into heaven. And by that time, we had they had a house already. They had a street team, a team that was going into strip clubs, a team that was going into the jail to build relationships with women, to let them know that where they were wasn't who they were, that they were loved. And that's exactly how I met Becky.
Okay, I was just wondering if that was Becky. So
That was Becky, yeah. And Becky really started this 17 years ago.
That's right.
Walking the streets of Akron, she was really challenged in a phase of her life to just do something, like stop consuming, go like be a part of what's going on in Akron. And she heard that Akron had a prostitution problem. And so she really started walking the streets over in Arlington to make friends with the prostitutes. Because at the time, that's how our culture viewed these women out on the streets. About 10 years ago then, when trafficking in persons first came on the books in the state of Ohio and became a law, someone approached her and said, "Well, what are you going to do about human trafficking?" And she said, "Nothing. I'm too busy with the prostitutes." And she would tell this story too. And it was really that time where her eyes began to be opened of what we thought were people who were out there selling themselves, were really a vulnerable population that were being hooked into relationships by coercive, fraudulent relationships and really being sold. And so that's kind of where we began to really change our trajectory to really, answer the problem of sex trafficking right here in Northeast Ohio.
Right, so she realized they very much tie in together, I'm sure. And then,
and that these women didn't want to be there.
Right.
They were being exploited and,
Well, let's start with your story.
Well, hold on, real quick on that.
Okay.
I went to Hoban. I told you that.
Yeah,
You know where Hoban's at.
I do.
Okay, so we're talking Fifth Avenue, Inman, and Arlington, and many times coming home from not from school, but like after a football game, like we would go down to Parisons after a football game. So and then coming home, we'd be coming home up Arlington Road, and we'd see it all the time. And this would be. I'm not old. I'm oldish. So this is the late 80s, early 90s. So I'm driving by the time 1991. So we're talking 91, 92. And we would see, I even struggle saying the word, prostitutes.
Yeah.
We would see them everywhere, all up and down Arlington Road. So it's interesting because she started this in 2002. That's 10 years later.
Yeah.
That's 10 years.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking about that right now. And it's like, okay, well, what happened in that interim 10 years where all those women did not have an option like this? Okay. So, all right. So go ahead.
Yeah. And we've known, prostitution isn't new.
Right. It's according to Wikipedia, it's the oldest profession on earth.
Yeah. And we would say it's the oldest.
Yes, I made that up.
The oldest form of exploitation of women.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. So.
Yeah, so why don't we go into your story and, how you ended up here at Rahab, but go ahead and start from the beginning.
Yeah, so I grew up I started on Delia. And I think I was about 5 when we moved there. And by the time I was 5, I broke into my best friend's house because they weren't home and I wanted to play with their toys. And so if I wanted to get in somewhere, I got married in kindergarten in my mom's backyard, and me and my husband just threw a rock through my best friend's window, and I'd go in there and we colored up the walls all nice. And then we took all our toys outside and we're playing. And when the family pulled up, I was the only one smiling. And so I just remember that lady bringing me home. I don't really remember what my consequences were, but from there I started skipping school in kindergarten. I skipped one day. And my mom by then should have knew something was going on. But anyway, the mom that I have has been amazing. Her and Becky and Jesus are the reason why I'm here. But anyway, so we move up into Hartville. We have a pool in the backyard. We start having bonfires and pool parties and, birthday parties. And everybody's come over to our house. The whole neighborhood's like a family. And by the time I'm getting ready to turn 13, I went to Lake. I grew up with these kids. I don't feel different. And I learned that I'm moving to Arizona. And when I moved there, man, I spoke death all over my life all the way up there. All my life I believed in Jesus, but I never received it for the truth for myself. I just thought I was a nobody. Got out there, all the stuff I talked over top of myself. What are they going to think? Are they going to hate me? What are they going to think I look like? Are they going to want to be my friend? Started out in school, and all that stuff happened to me. My mom was my biggest supporter and always has been. My dad's a great provider. He was raised in a very verbally abusive home. So that's all he had at the time. But my dad's a very different man today. But anyway, so I'm in school and all these people are bullying me and calling me names, and I'm grabbing all that stuff up, all them lies, and I'm shoving them deep down inside of me. And I'm making that my truth. And I can't even see it's a lie anymore. And I get introduced to alcohol, and it wasn't peer pressure for me. It was just like, this is going to keep me from feeling the way I feel. And I was a blackout drinker from the word go. By the time I was 14, we had moved from Kachina Village into Fox Glen, and our house was finishing up with the paperwork and stuff. We were getting ready to move in. So we stayed with another family that had moved, also transferred out there from Ohio under the same trucking company. And their son, he came in the room one night and he wanted sex, and I was afraid. And I told him no. And then he said he'd find somebody that loved him. And then I got afraid to lose him. And so I gave myself away. And I just remember after that just feeling like I was always slithering on the ground. I felt like I was no one. He threw me away. And from that point forward, I just started giving myself away to any guy that was paying attention to me. And inside, I was a wreck. I was dying on the inside. So I would shove more alcohol and stuff in me. And then when blackout drinking came, I couldn't remember what I was doing and stuff. My mind didn't work. Say something like, I shouldn't be doing this. I went on and got introduced to cocaine. I started snorting that. And when my nose would bleed all the time, by the time I was 17, I had been introduced to crack cocaine, and I was a full-blown crack addict. In Arizona, it was a little different than when I got here. A lot of the times we would just go to these parties and they would be giving it, and I was just kind of doing it on the weekends. I ended up in my sophomore year coming home, coming through the door and telling my mom, I'm quitting school. I know everything there is to know. And my mom, being the woman that she is, she knew people that had been successful that didn't have a GED, and I had promised my mom I'd get a GED. I went out twice for that. Both times I failed math. I couldn't understand how the alphabet and the numbers were all together and they equaled something. So I struggled with that. So I gave it up after the second round. I didn't care about making my mom proud or anybody. I was kind of angry about it. Got introduced to a place called Life Skills. And they were going to tutor me. And so under the influence, I always thought I had the best ideas. And so I go up there and I'm doing what I do, and these people are trying to help me. And somebody gets me to sign a contract saying that I'll go to Job Corps. Because at first I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go away from my mom and my family. But they said, it'll be 3 months before we send you. You already have your GED. Well, that didn't work out. 2 weeks later, they called me. They're going to send me to Sacramento, California. So wow. I get on the plane, get out there. My luggage doesn't come with me. I'm out there in a place I don't know anybody. The people finally come get me after hours. I swear we were doing 100 all the way to this place. I said, man, as soon as I get back to this place, I'm calling my mom, I'm leaving. And then we pulled up on the grounds and it was co-ed. I'm like, what? The boys are here. I'm staying, right? So we get on there and I meet this girl. She says her name is whatever it was at the time, what she said. And she says, I tried to burn down my high school. So I slipped my arm right around her. I said, this is my new best friend, right? So what I found in that place later on, looking back, was so many people caught up in counterfeit love, and they were just looking for the real thing, which is exactly what I was looking for, far beyond my mother's love. I needed Christ's love. But anyway, so I by the skin of my teeth, I get my GED, and I celebrate, and we come back and we tear them people's place up. We're drunk and making fools of ourselves, and I get kicked out, come back to Flagstaff, and looking for a knight in shining armor everywhere I go. Right. And so I meet this guy. Several times he beat me to inches of my life. He went on to get married, and I couldn't leave because I was afraid who would I be, because he had beat it into my head that I was nobody and I never would be, and if I didn't have him, I would be nothing. And I always attached that lie, and I stuck it inside of me and always made it true for me. And eventually he got in a lot of trouble, and he was sent off to prison for a very long time. His wife, she smartened up, got away from him, and he called me on a phone that he was controlling me through, and asked me to marry him. So I ran up there to the jail, drunk as I could be. Matter of fact, when he came out, there were 3 of them, so I stuck with the one in the middle. I was seeing 3 when I walked through the place, and we got married. And I was in a place in my mind where I was so screwed up. I was so far away from emotion or what truth was, that when we left, they took him to jail. He had to go do his prison time. And then I went out and consummated our marriage because nobody told me he had to be there during that. And so that's really how I was living my life. Ended up in Tucson to be closer to this husband. Stayed with a family who is truly my family still today, that I love with all my heart. They always looked out for me and never asked me for anything, and they just loved me. Got a call from my mom one day, and she was asking me to move back to Ohio. And I basically told my mom, she was my biggest enabler, so I used love against my mom to get the things that were going to satisfy my flesh, and I've never been satisfied in my flesh ever. But anyway, so I tell my mom, I'm married and I've got, I'm staying here and I'm not coming back. And the next day I get a call from my dad, and we'd had a strained relationship for a long time. For a long time, I didn't think my dad loved me, and that was far from the truth. But anyway, he called me the next day, and we were talking, and he wanted me to move back to Ohio, and he said he'd help buy me a new car here. So, I hung up the phone in Ohio. Here I come, right? Because I'm going to be all fixed up with this car. And during that time, my best friend at the time, she's passed away, but I didn't know at the time she had AIDS, and I was afraid of her. I didn't know anything about it. It was back in the 90s, and instead of being a friend, I treated her more like an enemy. I didn't want to, but fear just grabbed a hold of me. And when she needed me the most, I went back up to Tucson to sell my car, the junker I did have that my dad tried to keep together because I couldn't keep it out of the hands of other people. It had been wrecked. And anyway, I remember just being at her gravesite and saying, trying to talk to God that day and saying, help me to understand this disease. I'm very educated on it today. I wish I'd have knew the things I know now, but through that I learned I didn't have to be afraid. So I come back here to Ohio with the attitude it's all their fault. Get back out here. 72 hours in, I knew I was the fool. Thought it was everybody else, but it was truly me. Back in the bars, back with the same men, different faces. And then I met this one guy who was going to be my knight in shining armor. And he beat me and raped me and put me on the streets of Akron. Very first car I ever got into. I'll never forget that. That's why my heart is all for the streets of Akron. That's why I'm at home when I'm in the streets of Akron. And that's why I love the Rahab house the most. Because I want them women to know that they're loved more than they can even come up with in their own mind. They're recklessly loved by Jesus Christ. But anyway, I'm down there, and after I get out of my first car, as disgusted as I felt, I wanted to scrub the skin off to my bones. I thought this is a quick, fast way to make money. I was a full-blown crack addict. I'd been off crack for 10 years, but I'd never stopped doing anything else. So I thought I had everything in control. When I came back face-to-face with crack again, it landed me on my back, and I couldn't get back up on my feet. And so after that first car, I would just get myself completely out of my mind so that I could go. I learned a long time ago to disconnect my head from where I was, places I didn't want to be. I could put my head in other places, and that's how I got in them cars with those men. I've been brutally raped and put in the hospital, beat to inches of my life, shot at. But Jesus, he rose me out of that darkness, and he set my feet on solid rock. I now have 11 years sober. I continued on them streets. I didn't think that I was worth anything. And I basically just said one night, God, kill me or save me, but don't let me live like this anymore. And then I was in a paddy wagon, and I said, hold up, God, right? Because that's not the way I wanted to get saved. So I'm in and out of the jail, and I'm in and out of treatment centers. And I remember the first time I got sent, or the only time I've been to prison, by the grace of God, favor definitely on my life. But they were like, you're going to cry when you get down there, and they shut the gate. So we get down there, and we go through the gates slam together, and I'm like, man, what? I'm tough. I'm not crying. I look over, and I go, oh, it's co-ed. And she goes, that's a woman. I go, oh, my God, I'm going to die in this place. She looked like a man. I was scared to go in this thing. But same thing I found at Job Corps. Women that were stuck in counterfeit love. Yeah. And they were taking abuse and beatings, and some of them took sentences for other people. It was just a horrifying mess of counterfeit love down there. These women needed loved, and I did too. I went down on a 2.5-year sentence, got out 4 months, right back to the streets I went, because I couldn't tell people the secrets that I was holding inside, and that was the very thing the enemy was using to keep me stuck in the street. And through a series of things that happened to me, finally, after about 5-6 years on them streets, 23 years of using drugs and alcohol, I got arrested on March 31st of 2008. I was actually rescued for the first time in my life. I was in a paddy wagon that looked like a chariot. I could exhale the minute they put me in it. Now, I tried to fight it. I tried to get out of it, but God wasn't having it. And I went to jail that night, and I woke up on April Fool's Day of 2008 in the Summit County Jail. I remember lifting up off the mattress that morning and just having this feeling inside of me that I wasn't going to use anymore, and that I was worth more than what I'd been doing to myself. And so I started watching this lady that was in there. It was like, I thought she had happy pills. So that quick, that all went out of my head. Oh, she's got happy pills. Let me get with this girl. I'm going to get to know her, be her friend. But everywhere she went, she had the basic instructions before leaving Earth book. And the way she talked and the way she carried herself, man, it was like, I want that. Because I was using words that you don't find in the Bible. And I just was all over the place. And I respected what was coming from her. She had this light. And about a weekend, my name comes over the intercom. And they were like, you have a clergy visit. So I looked to the girl next to me and I said, what is that? And she's like, oh, some lady wants to talk to you about Jesus. And I flew up the steps. And on the other side of the glass was this little pack of dynamite. And I didn't know her name. I don't remember her saying her name or anything. All I remember her saying was, Jesus loves you. And it's the very thing I still hold on to today. And 11 months later, I found out who that woman was. I thought about her every day. I wanted to meet her. There was something about her. I needed to know her. And that's when I found out that they had a Rahab house down on Matthew Street. Boy, and I busted through that door. And she probably thought I was nuts. But I told her, I'm going to stalk you. So Becky said, I stalked her for 6 years, and she finally gave me a job at Rahab. So that's how you get a job.
Are we encouraging stalking right now?
We're not encouraging. We don't do that anymore. We don't give jobs to those people.
That was back in the day.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just remember going to Becky. I was still prostituting, and I was still doing a lot of things because I didn't think I was worth anything. I didn't think anybody would ever give me the time of day. I didn't think that I was worth the time of day still. And I would come to Becky and I'd say, I'm doing this, and this wrong. But she'd say, you're doing this, and this right. She kept me encouraged. And she spoke life to me. And she always pointed me to the Father so that I could build a relationship through Christ, so that my life would change. And back when you said I could never come back, I screwed up 40 grand. And it'd been 10 years. And I was at this restaurant that I was working at. I was in a program. And I went that morning late. Something in me told me to go at 9 instead of 7. And when I got there, the whole building that I actually worked in off the restaurant of the Grotto had exploded. And I knew then that God, he was trying to get my attention. And I heard him as plain as day tell me that I was going back to Akron U. I remember even looking up and saying, I don't think you know what you're saying, God. But he did. And I went through a series of things, and Akron, God just blew the door off the financial department, and I graduated a straight A student. I remember getting a 4.0 on one of my semesters. I told my teacher, "Do you see that 4.0? The only time I've seen that is on an Alco machine, right?" So my spiritual experience through all that, in 2012, I walked across my first stage with all my clothes on and graduated from Akron U. So I have a diploma, and I worked for IBH for a little while, for a couple years. Then I ended up getting some unemployment, and through that unemployment, I remember getting feeling fear because it was getting ready to run out. And I thought, man, Rahab Safe House wasn't supposed to open until the following year. It was still a few months away. And the last check that hit my bank account, that very next Monday, God opened the doors at the Rahab Safe House. And I started there in November of 2014. I believe I'm going to be on payroll as an employee for Rahab 5 years in November. It's probably the longest job I've ever carried. But I don't feel like I'm going to work. I feel like I'm going down there and helping the very women I asked God to let me be a part of their life, to show them that He loves them and they're not who the world's told them they are, that they are who Jesus says they are. So Rahab stuck with me until I'm dead. I'm going to have to work that long. But I couldn't ask. I couldn't ask to have God change anything in my life, because I don't think the people that I know today would be in it. But Jesus, Becky Moreland, and my mom to start with, and all the other great people and Rahab employees and friends and all the people in Akron stuck and lost in the streets. I love them. It's where my heart's at. And so
we have a lot of people who have chimed in and just said that they are really, what an incredible story, powerful testimony. I just wanted to share those, saying they love hearing your story.
Thank you.
Just a lot of hope in your story. And that's really is what it comes back to, that there's so much hope at the end, that you have been redeemed and that now you are like working for this incredible ministry.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit more about.
I've been waiting to hit a button for
we gotta hit
it's like, so
so good.
I'm always accused of talking a lot, okay? we could have a tennis match, okay? Point being, I felt it was very important to not interrupt you and just let you tell that whole story. And you were your own sound effect. I didn't even need the panel. So good job.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. The people are chiming in, and everyone is just real excited that you shared that. So.
And Angel Rahab was going to keep her for life, but she's really a Rahab classic. No matter where you go, once you meet Angel, you can't forget her. But no matter where I show up, to either a call from the FBI saying, "Hey, we have a girl," or a hospital showing up for a girl who's been trafficked, and I say, like, "Have you ever heard of Rahab?" And if they've been on the streets of Akron, this girl has impacted so many women who are caught up in this life. They know her face, they know the beautiful red hair. Yeah, it's amazing.
And how cool that you were able to use your story. I know you just said this, you're using your story for so much good for these women.
Absolutely.
So Becky started doing this on the streets. At what point did she come up with the idea, hey, let's get a building?
Yeah.
When did that start? How did that happen?
Do you know the exact year?
Yeah,
we've always been like a felt need kind of place. And so once she was on the streets, the felt need was like, wow, these women, they want relationship. They need people to love them, to care about them. They need non-judgment. They need hot food, so all the physical needs, but also those emotional needs. And so she found a house. It was a couple years in, and I think that we bought it from the city of Akron for $1.
I hope so.
It was, we're like one of the only non-boarded up crack houses, trap houses, and then there's this little beam of light, the Rahab house down there.
Yes.
So that was our first
That's the one
place.
on Matthew?
Yes.
The one on Matthew Street.
Okay, the house that I worked
The
at.
house that you
Yes.
went with.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
you landscaped.
All right, so then when you say about the overall mission, there's multiple tiers to it, right?
Yeah.
So could you describe that to us?
Yeah. So Rahab has 4 buckets. we go out. We never want to be a place that just sets up a program and says like, hey, you come to us. And so we have an out bucket. We still walk those very same streets in Akron, Ohio. We also, have strip club and street ministry in Stark County as well that we're gearing up. But we partner with Cuyahoga County, Mahoning County. So we go out on the streets, in the strip clubs. We want to be in the places where women are being trafficked. Then we invite in. So we have two really community-based services, one being the drop-in house where Angel works at. The other is a minor mentoring center at the Well CDC awesome. That we love and we partner with, where they mentor minors through Restore Court, but also just any minors in the community that are currently being trafficked. We have safe housing, so we have an adult safe house that's been open for almost 5 years.
Yes.
And a minor safe house we just opened in February. And then our last bucket is just a ton of education and awareness, really trying to get the word out to what does trafficking look like in Northeast Ohio.
So you guys, you've kind of just shared some of your partners.
Yeah.
Do you have any other people that you partner with?
Yeah. We have a million
partners.
Yeah.
The thing about trafficking is it's an extremely complex social issue. Yeah. So if you think of, there's whole organizations that just do addiction recovery or domestic or intimate partner violence or rape. Trafficking has all like these social issues all like balled up into one. And so we don't have to be the experts in addiction recovery. We partner with those who have been doing it really well for years and years. We partner with courts, Restore Court, Hope Court, Grace Court in Akron. Those are big partners. We provide mentorship. We provide advocacy, housing for the women there. But we partner with a ton of people. Emerge, we're big partners with Emerge Counseling. They do amazing trauma therapy work for our individuals. Hope Meadows, we do equine therapy weekly with our women and children in our safe housing. So we just have a ton of partners that we really couldn't, there's no way we want to journey alongside women and children who have been trafficked in the journey of healing. And that takes a really long time, but also just takes a ton of resources. We would never be able to do that without partnering with the local community.
Okay. What facility do you work at, Angel? And tell us a little bit about that.
So I work at the Rahab House down on Matthew Street.
Okay.
It's a home. It's their home for that neighborhood. We have a welcome sign in the front, and we have signs that just recently lady brought and put them up, just letting, when people walk by there, it just says stuff like, you're worthy and you're loved. And when you leave the house, it says on the back, don't quit. Like keep striving to be better because you're worth it. But we pick up from the Oriental houses, and we do like Mondays and Wednesdays, we do soup and shop, which is absolutely amazing because of the partners that we have and the women that have been touched by God to bring us meals and stuff. We're able to serve them home-made casseroles and stuff, and have salads and vegetables and fruits and cookies and chocolate and all the good stuff.
Which is amazing because, one, they're getting a hot meal, right? But the other thing is all of our places our homes that have one of our staples is a long kitchen table where we actually sit down together, and they have real silverware.
That's right.
And real plates. And for them, that is so impactful. Just the things that we take for granted. And we get so many comments of like, wow, I haven't eaten off a plate in years.
Or never.
Yeah.
So I remember a girl on Thanksgiving that was just in tears. It was around Thanksgiving because we give a Thanksgiving dinner, but this was like around when we were still serving after. And she was just blown away that she was actually using silverware and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's true. I always say, I know it's not the table Jesus sat at, but I swear it feels like it, right? A big long table that they have for the Last Supper. But we go in there and we sit down like a family and we serve them and we love on them and we talk about things that are going on in their life. We have a little Bible study before that, and then they can shop And the little upstairs is set up like a little boutique. They can go up there. There's clothes, all outfits set up, all going up in the just to give them an experience of going up there and like they're shopping. Yeah, and then they get personals and all anything you can think of. It's all free. That's what I love about Rahab. Everything we offer is just to get you better.
Right.
And we don't. And there's no. That's priceless. But anyway, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we offer community service for people that are working off, court hours or money that they owe to the courts and stuff. It's a good time. We have Bible study then too, and we get to go through the stuff, hang it up. We get, clean the house. The women come in there and they just really want to be a part of giving back. And then on Friday, which is like my favorite day of the whole week, it's Hope Recovery from 3 to 5, ladies. But you come and there's always food. We have a lady, a volunteer that's amazing that always makes sure that there's food there on Friday. And we have a Bible study, and we're daughters of God, and we're sisters, and we just want to be there encouraging each other. And now that I'm down there 40 hours a week, there's a lot of open hours, and they can come and they can hang out, they can drink coffee, they can talk, they can sleep, whatever it is that they need at that time.
Yeah.
Feel safe.
Absolutely.
We're going to do our part here right now to help somebody out too. About a month ago, I put up a little contest, that would be, tune into the show, yada, yada, yada. And we're going to give away a $100 Acme gift card. All right.
Wow.
So 275 people went and registered to be a part of this thing. And we did there's a random generator number sequencer that you can use. So the way that works is you hit the thing, and I did it. Okay. So I get the number, and then you like scroll through, and then it's that contestant, whoever that person is.
And it was Angel.
So the winner, I'm going to announce the winner right now. So if you're watching now, that's fine. If you're not, we're going to track you down, and I will come to your place of business, and we're giving you a $100 Acme gift card. Okay. And the winner is Lori Jones Stokes. Lori, if you're out there, thank you, Lori, for being a follower of Three Throw to Go, and thanks for registering to win. You're now a winner. And I went and I looked her up. I stalked her Facebook profile, right? So she is, she goes to the Cathedral of Life, and she's part of the Praise Dancer team.
Wow.
All right. And it says she's an employee at the Akron Metro RTA. So, but she lives in Canton, I believe. So that's nice, because we always like having people all over the 330.
We won't hold her again.
No, and if she's
okay.
if she's up here in Akron, that means I can drop in and surprise her at work and hand her a $100 gift card. All right, so very cool. So thanks for registering, Lori. We'll get a hold of you. So let me put the official notice out, because everybody was wondering. So bam, there's that. All right. So now that was like halftime. Now here's a hard question.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't even know how to frame it, so I'm just going to ask. Akron, Northeast Ohio, the landscape of trafficking, it always comes up that this area, Lodi, where all the highways intersect, Ohio, the heart of it all. I've always been told that from a trafficking standpoint and a drug standpoint, that we have a big issue and a big problem in Northeast Ohio with this.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Tell us about how bad a problem do we have, and what do we do to help?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question.
Yes.
So let me tell you what trafficking isn't.
Okay.
Trafficking isn't the movie Taken. And I think that's important for people to understand, that you don't have to be scared shopping at the Target that the creepy white van is going to come and steal your kids. And it's important to know that in terms of the landscape, because if you think that's what trafficking is, you're going to miss that women and children are being trafficked and they're shopping in Target with you.
Yes.
That they're in your children's schools, children who are being victimized. And so the landscape of trafficking, you hear the highways. Most people will throw in like Lake Erie, well, we have Lake Erie. I'm like, I've never heard of a woman being transported via boat on Lake Erie.
Either.
Because trafficking does not take transportation.
Right.
Most of our women and children that we're coming in contact with, they are Akron born, they are Akron raised, and they're being sold in Akron. maybe there's some movement as far as Cleveland or Sandusky. We have some teenagers actually that are being transported from Sandusky into our strip clubs right here in Akron. So I think there are tons of reasons. I think if there is a vulnerable population, then they're exploitable. And that's what that's the landscape of trafficking here. People are out exploiting vulnerabilities in young children and women.
And Nicole was on the Sip of Solidarity show on Thursday.
Yeah.
And she, one of the things that she mentioned on top of that was, in addition, it's the girls themselves may or may not even understand that it's happening to them,
Right.
where they call the men their boyfriend.
Yeah.
So could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. And maybe you can, I think that is part of I think part of that reason is the misperception. We've had women come to our safe house and they're like, well, I wasn't trafficked, like I wasn't bound in a basement or handcuffed to the bed. And if that's the picture that our media continues to put out of like, this is what trafficking is, right? You still see billboards with the women who are like all bound up.
Yeah.
You're like, well, no wonder they don't identify with that. They don't understand. So I think that's one reason. The other reason is this trauma bond. If you are, remember those vulnerabilities, and Angel spoke to this. If you are a child who either is told or you believe like you're nothing, no one will ever want you, then you're maybe sexually abused as a child, which is the number one vulnerability for trafficking that we see. So now you're taught your body's not your own, your words don't matter, your physical body is sexualized, and someone comes along and says, oh, you're beautiful. Your parents, they don't care about you. They're not going to take you to the mall and buy you what you want, but I can get you what you want. I'll get your nails done. I'll get your hair done. We'll get you looking good. And then all of a sudden there's a switch that flips. And with those vulnerabilities, where you don't know better, you feel like either one, it's your fault, or two, you owe it to someone. You owe it to this man. But it's there's something that happens in the brain and the body with the trauma that we won't get into, but it's a very intricate system of when the hand that beats you also is the hand that feeds you. The dynamic gets real wonky there.
Okay.
Well, I think that's why, like, the educational aspect of what you guys do is also really important. Like, even just going out and teaching community and what women in the community, whether even just so that we can be more knowledgeable about what to look for too.
And we do a ton of training with educators, right? We want every teacher to know what this looks like, what vulnerabilities. Hospitals, we do a bunch of education in the hospitals at Akron Children, at Akron City. We've been at General. We've been in all of them because those are people on the front lines who are seeing this,
right?
And they need to be empowered to know.
And a lot of them are also learned and kept by drugs.
Yes.
The addiction will keep you pinned to the person giving it to you.
Yeah.
And sometimes the addiction provides a vulnerability for a trafficker to come along and really exploit that. Yeah. Sometimes traffickers themselves use drugs to stick women. And actually through legislation in Ohio, they're looking to expand the definition of what coercion can mean to include drug addiction.
That's right. Yeah. So I know you run the miners' safe house.
Yeah, both safe houses.
You run both.
So I'm over both safe houses. Yeah.
So can you share a little bit about that and what you do?
Yeah. So our safe housing, really, our goal is to provide holistic healing to the women there. It's long term, as in as long as they need. It's free, which really sets us apart from really a lot of organizations. A common per diem for a minor is $350 a day to get help. So the fact that Rahab is free, really, like, people don't know what to do with that, right? But we really just feel like this healing should be available to.
What?
I know.
What?
Right?
$350
$350 a day.
for what?
for the services they're being provided.
What?
That's, in residential care, that's upwards to like $425 a day. It's crazy.
Wow.
And Rahab,
Okay.
that's why we have so many supporters, amazing donors, because we just won't do that.
Okay.
These children and these women need what we offer. And
That's
so
right.
we provide wraparound holistic healing in a home. It's not a facility.
No,
we don't have brick walls or, bunk beds that are made of steel. Yeah. They walk in and it's like one of our minors this week just said, never, ever did I ever know that a place like this existed.
Amen.
And that's just what we
That's what
hear.
you want.
Yeah, over and over.
Hey, I gotta
They
say,
feel at home.
one time I was bringing an adult lady, and she goes, "This is a doctor's house."
A doctor's house.
house, yeah.
It was
She,
so
yeah,
nice.
because it was so big and
Aw.
beautiful, and oh my gosh, I
love
was
that.
dying.
Yeah, and it's tucked away in the woods in a neighboring county, in an undisclosed location. That's just safe. It's safe. It's secure, and so that's what we do. We walk through the journey of healing with them and partner with the best care. My heart and intention is, if one of us underwent a pretty traumatic circumstance, we would have access and resources to things to heal that. A good trauma therapist, from like even acupuncture, or if your body went through some things, you need a chiropractor, right? All these things that we have access to, and my heart and intention is like, these women should have access to the best. They've gone through severe, extensive trauma, most of them since young childhood. And they deserve the best, and that's what we provide them at Rahab.
Amen. Amen.
Event-wise, okay, I've always been told, and I don't know if this is truthful or not, that events spike this sort of activity. Example, the All-Star Game, NBA Finals, World Cup. Could you guys speak on that? Do you guys, when something's coming to town, do you gear up? Do you ratchet up your activity? How do you address that? How does that work?
Well, so we do. When the RNC was in town, we did a bunch of trainings for our volunteers to walk the streets and be on the streets. We actually were part of a woman escaping during the RNC who came and stayed at our safe house. Here's the reality of events. So statistically, the people who buy sex are white, middle class, married men. Okay, so that's the landscape of sex buyers, which is important to talk about, because if people weren't buying sex, people wouldn't be selling people for sex.
That's right.
These events that you just listed off, there's a huge influx of white, married, middle-class men.
Who are now out of town,
Correct.
away on business.
Yes. And so that's why you see, there's just more sex buyers in one place, and so there's more sex being sold. At the end of the day, it's a game of economics, unfortunately. Yep. And so I think that answers why these events attract. What's important is that when those people and the events end, when the All-Star Game that was just in Cleveland is over, there are still women and children being sold.
That's right.
And so we want to make sure that we still understand the backside of it. And only when these huge events arise, everyone goes home and there's still children, being sold.
Right.
I think you guys have talked a lot about your programs, but for people out there that maybe are really interested in getting involved in some way, what are different ways that people can be involved, from the small ways to if they really want to come and be a volunteer type of thing?
Yeah.
Share that.
I always start with the training.
Yeah.
They have to start there.
Yeah.
And I never know when it's every.
The next one's in November. Our next training is November 2nd
Is it
at
2nd?
Grace and Bath.
It's
Oh,
close.
cool. Okay.
Yeah.
We can actually put that up on this link for people if they're interested.
Yeah.
So if you want to, our training, really it's if you're just in the area and you want to know more about what trafficking is, what it looks like, the trauma of trafficking. Our executive director, who left the FBI to lead our organization, speaks.
Yes.
It's a day. It's 9 to 3.
Yep.
And it is well worth the time. So And if you want to volunteer, you have to go to the training first. So it's kind of both and.
Right.
If you just want to know, if you're just interested, we're there. Other events, we have a Running for Rahab event coming up that I'll give a little plug to. I'm running the 13 miles for that. 13.1, that .1.
That's part of the part of the marathon.
Yeah. So if you want to, all the funds we raise for
26.2,
that,
right?
Yeah.
13.1.
All the funds we raise for that goes to
awesome.
our trauma therapies in
Okay.
connection with Emerge. So you can go to Emerge's website and support me, Alicia Lay.
We'll put that link up too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I can't even run a block. You go, girl.
Yeah. But really, that's a huge one of our fundraisers, really,
That is
just
awesome, too.
to get those therapies to our women and children that we serve.
That's huge.
Our website, rahab-ministries.org, is a great place for resources, videos. We have a podcast, all the things.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. You guys have social media?
We do.
All right.
Yeah.
Facebook.
Angel and I are terrible at social media, but
But
Nicole
they
would
have
be
it.
really happy.
Okay.
We have.
Here we go. What do you have?
Yes.
What do you have? Do you have a Facebook?
Oh gosh, we definitely have Facebook.
Do you have an Instagram?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So
Yep.
you can check them out on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a tweet or so.
Oh, I think we might have a tweet.
Do people do that still?
We might tweet.
I don't know.
We're the wrong ones.
I'll
to
check
ask.
later.
Okay.
I'll check later.
Yeah, check with Nicole.
Yeah. Do you guys just want to talk about your vision for the future before we wrap up? What is your vision for the future?
So
look like?
many things.
Mine's
are
is
going on.
saving every single child, woman, and even even the boys that are being trafficked.
Yeah,
Everybody,
yeah.
get this thing deadened here in
Yeah.
the world, so that no other child
I love it.
has to be sold.
We are.
Big vision.
Yeah.
Good.
We talk a lot about we are placed in a very unique point in time where there's a lot, trafficking is kind of the buzzword.
Big time.
People are coming to awareness and that this is happening. And, I liken it to other movements that we've seen, especially in violence against women. Like in 1970, the first rape crisis hotline in DC opened. In 1971, reported rapes went up 60%. Well, it's not because rape was happening more,
No.
right?
No,
It was because there was some advocacy.
people actually
People came around and
talking
really
about it.
defined the issue and had some help for some women. And I think we're in that point in time. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more reported cases of trafficking.
God.
I think we're going to see prosecutions of
Yes.
traffickers
Thank
going
God.
down for their crimes coming up. And so we're really expanding. We're expanding into a lot of neighboring counties. Like I said, Stark County, we work with Mahoning. Cuyahoga County is knocking on our door saying, we need a Rahab here. And then our executive director, her vision for the future really is replication.
Yes.
That we want Rahab to go to other places and spaces and offer a continuum care for women and children trapped in this life too.
And you bring that up, and the awareness.
Yeah.
And one of the big parts of this was when Epstein died, people were most upset with it because it probably would have led down a tunnel that would have brought a lot more awareness to bad guys.
Yeah.
And it's gone, and people were very upset about that, and it was all part of this conversation.
Yeah.
So ladies, I just thank you, honey.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you.
Your full story.
For
too.
sure.
That was so cool.
I started this little thing, whatever this is, back in 2017, and it was designed to cover football and food. Okay, and we
Like food.
we have morphed and morphed and morphed again, and now here we are talking about this. Okay, so I'm still gonna cover food, and I'm still gonna
Yay.
cover stupid stuff and festivals and things. But I also love the fact that we can sit down for an hour and talk about something like this.
Yeah, it's important.
So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks for having us.
So yeah. So
Good thing you ran
Glad,
into
glad I
Angel.
see you.
well, and again, usually when people say, "Hey, aren't you?" I go, "Hold on, which version of me are you addressing right now?"
And
Okay.
I remember where I met you.
You do?
I actually met you at Mustard Seed when you were sitting with
That's
Becky
right.
Moreland.
Yes, that is.
and
I
that's
knew
what-
I'd seen your
I knew
face.
I'd met
Yeah.
you specifically in person. So
That's great. That's
Wow,
great.
remember.
That is where it was. Yeah.
All right. So I took a poll last week.
Yes.
You
Sorry,
get,
yeah, we're
keep
totally
going.
hungry.
Keep going.
No, we're good. Go ahead, poll.
I took a poll last week, and it was about doing regular shows like this that are scheduled versus pop-ups, and it's like 50-50. So I'm going to keep doing the pop-ups. And pop-ups are where I just show up and do like a 10-minute interview of a business or whatever. And I got 2 of them this week. One of them that is going to blow your mind that a place like this even exists, okay? But I'm not going to give that away, all right? But our next scheduled show will be on September 25th. We're going to a place called La Daisy Boutique, and I'm sitting down with Angel, who runs the joint.
Go ahead, Angel.
And it's over in Bath, and it's focused. It's a secondhand clothing store for women,
awesome.
Nice.
and it's not just
check it
clothing,
out.
but it's accessories as well. So it kind of ties in with this topic. All right. So we're going to sit down with her. That's on the 25th. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Sounds
But
fun.
until then, buttons. Don't know where I'm going, but there ain't no sense of being late. Ladies, join me. Say goodnight, Shirley.
Good night,
Good night, Shirley.
This podcast is a copyright of Moon Garden Media Limited.
Oh, this a lot of peanut butter.